I actually convinced my best friend Gina, my best friend since fourth grade, to get her real estate license and to become a transaction coordinator for our office so that I could have her. Because she's not only my support in life and in friendship, but now she's like a support in real estate as well. So yeah, I feel like the best thing to have is friends and people that support you. People are everything. People, we can do like tools and apps and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, nothing is going to replace that human touch. I don't care what anyone says.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And as all of you guys know that listen to the show, I love bringing people that love to play bigger. And the guest you're about to listen to is all about playing bigger. And she says success is about lifting others. She has served at a really high level for the community, from her city organizations to nonprofit organizations like AREAA, and being past president for the San Diego chapter. And we know that that is a huge commitment. She's been licensed since 2002 and recently was a finalist for the San Diego Realtor of the Year. Her commitment shines through not only in business, in community, and with her family. We connected on a sports mom level, and I've seen her cheer on her daughters. And in a world where we are constantly juggling things, I wanted to have a convo around life and business and still having time to serve the community of what actually fuels your passion. So welcome to the show, Jocelyn Soriano Lomahan. Did I get that right?
Yes. Think about lend a hand, Lomahan.
I love it. So obviously you've got a really impressive bio, and I want to dive right into it. You've been an agent, you're a wife, you're a mother, and you serve on such a high level with all the communities that you're involved in. How do you actually stay organized, and what has been the keys to your success? Because when somebody's listening to that on this podcast or somebody's watching this YouTube, is they're going, wow, she does. I barely have time for my business. I barely have time for my family, but you do all this and more. So how do you stay organized, and how do you what would you say are your keys to your success?
A lot of it is just like survival mode. You know what you have to do. Instinctually, you know it needs to get done in level of importance. Of course, your family and your health is the most important. So those things are always just instinctually happening. But you and I have talked about this. I'm an old school paper girl. I have an agenda that I actually carry with me all the time. And yes, I am trying to be better about being digital and putting things in my digital calendar, which I do. But there's just nothing like paper to pen, connecting to it, making little like smiley faces and squiggly notes on things or stars on things that are very important. But as long as I'm prioritizing, again, my family and my health and my business, it all falls in line. Do I mess up every now and then? Of course, we're all human. But again, as long as I really know what my most important things to do, I figure out a way to get it all done.
I find that a lot of people that I coach that are top agents, they have a great sense of prioritizing and reprioritizing, whether it's projects, initiatives, the team. Do you have an order? You say life, you said health, business, family. Do you have an order in which you prioritize? Because sometimes when you actually make a commitment and sign up, like being the AREAA president, you have to shift some priorities. So walk us through, is there an order that you prioritize through?
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is that those priorities change as what you're doing changes. I was president of AREAA San Diego last year, all of 2023. And certainly that was one of my biggest commitments, the thing that I signed up for and said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give my all to it. And inevitably, your business is affected by it. And thank God I have an amazing team. I have colleagues that helped me get through it because, of course, my clients are very important to me. They're my bread and butter. It's what we need to survive. But again, I made that commitment to AREAA that I would be at the helm. So a lot of things had to be put on the back burner. 2023 probably wasn't my most stellar stellar year in production, but it wasn't too shabby. It was something that I committed to, and I realized that I have a lot of people depending on me. Between, gosh, we usually have 12 events a year. During my year, we probably had close to 24 events. And so that takes a lot of organization. And again, I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid at all for what I did for AREAA, nor does the board of directors and all of the volunteers that put their time, talent, and treasure essentially, because they're taking time away from their business to volunteer for me. So I said, you know what, I have to give my all to get as much as I can out of the volunteers. So yes, again, during my presidency, I knew that some things had to be put on the back burner. So as long as you're prepared for that. And what's funny is a year goes by so fast. I have no regrets. I'm so glad I did the presidency for AREAA because it just brought it elevated me to another level. Not me personally, but just made me more exposed to things that otherwise I would not have known about. And it really tested my leadership skills because that's something that we need in our businesses and in our families. And it just introduced me to a whole slew of people. I knew you, but I got to know you better as I was AREAA president.
Yeah. Did you always have that passion? What inspired you to take on? And I know that's a big role
Yeah.
and that takes a lot of commitment. 24 events. Think
Yeah.
about that, like all the organization. And on top of what Jocelyn just said, is that all of these people are volunteers. Nobody's getting paid. So sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And then the job still has to get done. Did you always have that passion to serve, or what inspired you to take on the president of San Diego, the area?
I think a lot of what I do it's a giving back to all the things that I have received. I was just talking about this yesterday to another organization that asked me to be a part of their group. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful for all the opportunities that I've been given, and real estate being one of them. Never in a million years did I think I would get to this point in my career. And of course, I never take anything for granted, but I have been very blessed. And what better way to give back than to serve our community? So that's why I'm super involved in AREAA and my church and all these other things. But with AREAA, I feel like it's because they took me in. Real estate is a lonely business. So AREAA was a really good chance to connect with other realtors. And I was like, what are they doing over there? Their mission is to promote homeownership among the API community. And I know that from my parents, they had the opportunity to buy a home because of a realtor. And I actually remember that realtor because when it became time for my parents to consider selling the childhood home I grew up in, this realtor, and I remember, I think her name was Sally, she said, yes, you can absolutely sell this house, but why not consider having a legacy to leave to your kids? Why don't you rent it out and use some of that equity to buy another house? And I think that if a realtor didn't really care, they would have easily went for the sale. But because Sally said something different to my parents, and again, I was only like 17 at the time, so I didn't know what was going on. It just made me realize, wow, she gave my parents and myself and my sister a gift. And so that made a huge impression on me years later. And that's something that I kind of want to pay forward. So yeah, whenever I come across like someone in my network that says, hey, I want to sell, I would love to help you, but are you sure? Do you want to consider some other options to build generational wealth for your family? I think AREAA really was an outlet for that. Let me be around other like-minded individuals that have the same thinking.
Yeah, so well said. And I'm curious to know, it's like people are listening to this, is how has that impacted? How is serving your communities, whether it's in your church
Mhm.
or nonprofits, how has that helped your business?
Oh, tremendously. I feel like that's where I've gotten the most business. I'll admit that I am not a farmer. I don't knock on doors. My biggest key to getting my leads is social media. But what it is, I'm posting what I'm doing. I'm posting, of course, about my successes in real estate, but I'm also posting other things that I do. And people are always like, God, Josh, you're like everywhere. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. And the thing is, I love it. I think what happens is that the genuineness, it shows through my posts. I absolutely love, my church does a monthly like food for families where we distribute foods. I just got asked, get this, 2 days notice, someone reached out, said, hey, I know you have a big network. We have this organization called Hope Through Housing. They need 44 backpacks to distribute to a low income community that, they're in need. And I was like, gotcha. And then I just reached out to all of my networks, and I didn't even have to put on Instagram much, but I did. But I reached out just to all my people and said, hey guys, here's the mission. Here's what we need to do. And sure enough, I got 44 backpacks like donated in some way within a matter of 2 days. And again, I think that's just the power of the network. And I'm so excited about all the groups I'm involved in because there's so many great people involved in it. The thing is, we serve, we give of ourselves, and in return it all comes back. So I feel like a lot of my clients have come from my involvement in the community because again, they see me as someone that is trustworthy, someone that is being selfless, and just someone that just knows how to get it done. So I think that's
Yeah.
kind of been a huge contributor to my real estate success, is being involved in my community, and it's something that I genuinely love doing. So I think that's the
Yeah.
difference.
I think there's no better gift than being generous, whether it's money, time, serving, giving value back to others. Like there's no better gift than generosity, for sure. And
Agreed.
like you do it on so many levels. What do you think all of this has taught you?
That at the end of the day, life is so short that what do you want to be remembered for? I want to be remembered for just being a kind human. That's
Mhm.
it. It's pretty simple.
Are there times that you feel overwhelmed with some of your commitments? And if so, how do you handle it?
Oh yeah, there are times that I definitely feel overwhelmed because I think once people see that you are a giving human, it's so not uncommon for people to come to you for more. I don't even know if you and I have ever talked about it, but at one point I was asked to run for city council for our city. And I was like, wow, what an honor to be approached by that. And I did it for a while. I ran for a good 6 months, and I realized like this it was overwhelming. I actually reached the peak of my bandwidth, and I couldn't do it anymore. And it was affecting my health, it was affecting my family. And it was at that point where I realized, you know what, there's just some things where you just have to say, you know what, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And of course, just naturally, you think, oh my gosh, I failed. I couldn't commit. But it really wasn't a failure. It was a learning experience. And really, there's no failure. I always tell the girls, you're not failing, you're falling forward, and then you just pick yourself back up again and keep going. So yeah, it is so easy to keep saying yes to things, but you really just have to know your limit. And unfortunately, I have had to excuse myself from certain groups I've been involved in, not because I didn't believe in it or think I could do it, but it was just too much. And it just wasn't fair to them to only have a very limited Jocelyn. I wanted to be all in or not at all.
Now, do you have filters for, because I'm assuming, like you just said, once people know that you come from a caring heart and you love to serve, you constantly get asked. And sometimes as people, we feel bad for saying no. So
Yeah.
do you actually have boundaries or parameters of or filters of this is what I would actually say yes to this year? If it's a hell yes, then it's a
Yeah.
yes. If it's like a maybe, then I'm probably going to back out.
Yeah, that's so funny. I actually had to create that recently because again, it's just coming everywhere. So the filters include real estate in a sense, but more so like real estate that helps the AAPI community. That's why AREAA has been at the forefront of my yeses. If it has a lot to do with faith, I definitely am on board. Something that you and I share, if it's anything about sports, specifically women in sports, I'm a yes. Just because I
Mhm.
have seen the benefits of sports in my daughter's lives and in turn my own life. And so that one is something that I actually probably want to explore even a little more, is women
Yeah.
in sports.
Oh, so good. And speaking of sports, obviously we connected
Yes.
with you being a sports mom, having your kids, I think in any activity, sports, activities, it requires a commitment. And when you're running a business and you're running around driving your kids everywhere because they're pursuing their goals, how do you manage the demands of being a sports mom along with all your other commitments in your business?
Oh my gosh. You know what's so funny? It's a commitment, but it's also like my recreation. It's another outlet of meeting new people. I've gained so many new best friends just from the kids in basketball. And I don't really see it as like a commitment. I see it as something just like the thing that Jay and I, my husband and I, like love to do, and that it's just part of our like social network. So it actually wasn't that hard. Yes, of course, the driving to practices and things like that were a sacrifice, but oh my gosh, you are like almost there, but you're going to realize how fast it goes by. Ava has been playing basketball since she was in the third grade. So it's just been a part of our lives forever. And now she's graduated from high school. And once they get their licenses and they can drive themselves, you miss it. I'm like
Yeah.
in like mourning right now from like basketball games. I'm like living vicariously through you.
Oh my gosh. I know that I bawled on Sunday, the last game. I just couldn't believe that that was his last,
Yeah.
just like you. My
Yeah.
kids have been playing since they were young. What life lessons do you think you've learned in supporting your children's sports, or what have you seen them learn throughout all the years of them playing or being involved in an activity?
How much time do you have?
All the
Yeah.
time in the world.
Yes.
I'm sure
Well,
these moms and dads and the parents, they always want to learn about this because this is not talked enough about.
yeah, I am so grateful that I was introduced to sports through my daughters because I didn't play sports. I was like more of a dancer, things like that. But I'm so grateful. And she actually is the one that said, Mom, I want to explore basketball when she was little. I said, okay, let's do it. But it's so great because I feel like sports is such a metaphor for just life and business. There's just so much that we can learn. But with Ava, obviously like team building, perseverance, sacrifice, like all of those great things that we see in athletes, I've seen with her. And that's the reason why I think that she is going to USC this fall on a Naval ROTC scholarship, is because she like executed on all of those things. She forwent some of the immediate benefits because she knew she had a bigger goal in mind. And then so few of us can be that mature, and for her to be that mature at such a young age. But if you wouldn't mind me sharing, just like in a crazy experience with Ava in basketball, she was a senior last year. And the trajectory was for her to have a stellar senior year. Her first 2 years in high school she didn't get to play as much because they had superstar players. And so her junior and senior were her time to shine. So that's when we went all in. Senior year was going great. Halfway through the season, she tears her ACL. And as you know, I mean, that's it. You're done. You're done with your season. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it because it was emotional for me as well. But man, I saw her integrity shine through because she could have easily been bitter. She could have easily been angry. She could have easily just gave up and said, oh my gosh, I'm done. But no, what she did was complete 180. And it was just really a testament to her character. She never missed a game. Actually, no, I take it back. She missed one game the day of her ACL surgery. And that at that game, her teammates, they wanted to show their support, so they all wore like little tapes with her initials on it, and they sent a picture of the team with the bands. And she's like, Mom, I got to get better for my team. And I said, honey, you realize are probably not going to play the rest of the season. She's like, I know, but I don't want to miss being on the bench for any games. So I mean, there's so much more I could say, but again, it's a metaphor for life. Sometimes you're down. Sometimes let's just say you have a bad year in business. Like, it's not always going to be a winning season, but it's how you adjust to your circumstances that shows your true character and shows what kind of person you are. So again, I used her experience. I thought about that for just like my life, and just if I can impart any kind of, metaphor for business and sports, it's that. It's like, man, you just never know what's going to happen, but you just have to adjust. Yes, you can cry about it. And I think she did cry because she was so frustrated. But, she said, you know what? I got to do this for my team, because being a part of a team doesn't just mean playing in the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes being a part of the team means cheering your team on as loud as you can in the stands when you're hurting, not just physically, but emotionally, because you can't be in there to help them. So man, I'm telling you, that's why I was so excited when you wanted to talk about sports day, because I just saw so many great things to come out of my daughter playing sports that, inspired me.
Hats off to you and your husband for raising such good humans. And Ava, with, like you said, the character shines. I mean, I was like having chills and holding my tears back because I understand,
Yeah.
right? I understand what it means. And like for her to rise, and I got to see all her stories,
Yeah.
right? Her rise in her cast and still come to the game and still knowing that your last year, like you were going to sit on the bench, but cheer your team on. And that just shows so much more than just the sport. I think she'll carry that with life. I mean, I think sometimes you look at our kids, and I think sometimes, like I tell people, they teach me more lessons than I could have ever learned on my own,
It's
to be right.
yeah.
And how you relate it to businesses, you're not always going to have a winning season, but how you deal with adversity, how you deal with challenges, you can't teach that. That only comes from experience.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And probably another amazing highlight was they had won CIF, and obviously Ava wasn't playing in the game when they won, but at the end, the award ceremony, Ava is the one that won the sports or whatever the sportsmanship award. And girl, I'm getting chills thinking about it again. I was like, I'm going to start crying. I actually fell to my knees crying because I was so proud of her.
Yeah, I was proud of her. I was crying on
I
the
know.
stories
Oh my
because
gosh.
all of the stories, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, "Oh my gosh." That's why I said hats off to you and your husband
Thank you.
because what like at the most darkest moment that someone could be at,
Right.
right? And I think this is just a lesson for everyone that's listening is it's not as bad as you think when you come on the other side of who you actually get to become.
Yeah.
And like the attitude and the characteristics that you get to embody because of such a crazy experience.
Yeah.
And like when they gave her that award, I was like in tears. I was like probably giving you a ton of hearts going,
You
"Oh my gosh,
were.
that was like the best thing." And I think whenever there is a team member or whenever there's someone in your circle that is down, no, and sometimes I always tell my kids, even at a grocery store, you never know what people are going through,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Just think about like on their forehead, like they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be loved because you
Mhm.
just have no idea. And I think she just represents so much resilience in so many ways. And like you said, and like I said, is like she teaches us lessons. And it's amazing that you can put things on stories and it can impact your life.
Oh,
It's just how you show up.
yeah. So again, life is a sport.
We say it in real estate, life
Yeah.
is a sport, life is a contact sport,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And you
So
play
what
bigger.
advice yeah, right? What advice would you give to parents that are juggling, that are entrepreneurs, that are juggling the roles? And before you answer that, there's one thing that I want to say. What
Mhm.
I most appreciate about you as a parent is, and just seeing from your stories and knowing you, is that you're not that parent that's going to solve their problems,
Mhm.
right? Is that I think when parents do that, they rob the kids of the opportunity of growth.
Yeah.
You really got to see her shine. And so I want to commend you for that. But what advice would you give to parents who are balancing entrepreneurship, running a business, and then raising kids or and activities just in general?
I would say I think as long as you understand what your priorities are at that time, because priorities can shift and change. And as long as you know what your priorities are, then really you're going to make the right decisions. Time goes by fast. She's already done. And now I'm just like, wow, I have all the time in the world now that she's not doing basketball in high school anymore. So, yes, now is the time that I can devote back to my business 100%. And I don't even know if I've told you this, but Jay probably was inspired by Ava as well. Like he decided, you know what, life is too short. I'm going to quit my like full-time job that had benefits and all of that good stuff and do something different. And so we're both on the entrepreneurial journey now as he's a lender now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, honey, now instead of us going to basketball games together, we can go to real estate events together. So it's definitely a different chapter in our lives. And it's scary as heck, but it's exciting. And again, I want the girls to also see, whoa, mom and dad are like totally taking a left turn. It's life. It twists and turns and you just never know. You never know what's going to happen. So we're excited about that as well.
Congratulations. I'm excited to
Thank
see the journey continue. What support system or what apps, what tools do you rely on to manage some of the roles that you have today besides pen and paper?
Yeah, pen and paper. I actually
I have it right
I
here,
know. Oh
right?
my
Pen
gosh.
and paper.
No, I have mine here somewhere. I really like Trello. I like the way that Trello is set up where you can move things around. And it's nice because not only does Jay have access to it, but my colleagues, my team, they all have access to it. So it's nice. And I feel like the biggest support system is people. I have the most, you've met my partner, Sherry Mosdell. She has been my rock. She was the president
Yeah.
of AREAA a couple years before me. So while I was president, she definitely helped me navigate and maneuver. And that's the thing. It's you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Like, just learn from the people that were ahead of you and just kind of put your own little spin on it. So it's not like I was having to recreate these events every time. I took a shell, I took a template and just made it my own. And yeah, that's been one of the biggest hacks. And I actually convinced my best friend, Gina, my best friend since fourth grade, to get her real estate license and to become a transaction coordinator for our office so that I could have her. Because she's not only my support in life and in friendship, but now she's like a support in real estate as well. So yeah, I feel like the best thing to have is friends and people that support you. People are
Yeah.
everything. People, we can do like tools and apps and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, nothing is going to replace that human touch. I don't care what
Yeah.
anyone says.
Yeah, I could not agree with you anymore. Like relationships, people
Mhm.
are the best like life hack.
Yeah.
Get anywhere to have anything that you truly want because people are connected and I think that's when you have great relationships around you, when you have a great support system, it makes all the difference in the world. What do you do for self-care?
Oh gosh, let's see. I definitely do a lot of facials and massages, and I do yoga. I do like to work out, but you know what I like to do. I like to dance. So
Yeah.
it's so funny that I was able to combine my love for dancing with client stuff. I started this thing, and it all came about because I wanted to learn like all the TikTok dances that everyone's doing. So I asked like this one of these young agents, like this one of these 20-year-old agents, like, hey, can you teach me all these TikTok dances? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, you know what? Better yet, let's do a class. Let's like have a class like for all of my homies and my clients and anyone that wants to do it. Because I think it can be intimidating to go to your
Right.
local dance class and try to take a class. But I was like, dude, you guys, I want this to be like fun. I want it to be just us, like our friends, like, kind of people closer to my age or whatever. And so I created hip hop with homies. And it is so much fun because there's no pressure. I mean, you come in, you learn a dance, and we just learn it that day for an hour. Come to all the sessions or come to one every now and then. But it's been so fun. It's been like another community builder. So, again, going back to what we started with, it's like if you're serving your community with something that you like to do anyway, it's just a win all around.
I love it. Hopefully I can go to one of your
Oh,
hip hop classes because I've seen
better.
them on Instagram, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "That looks so fun."
It is
You
so
know?
fun. And before I forget, I wanted to say another thing about like business and life being like a sport. You know this more than anyone. Like, what does a team need to guide them to the next level? A coach like you,
Mhm,
right? And so
mhm.
I think that's something that we should not forget is that if life is a sport, if our business is like compared to a sport, we need coaches. We need someone that has like the experience and the guidance to lead us to the next level or lead us to the win. Or if we lose, they'll be there to say, hey, that's okay. What's
Yep.
next? So that's another metaphor between life, business, and sports.
I love it. What's a lesson you wish you would have learned sooner?
To not be afraid of what anyone thinks of you. That
I
is
love
I try to tell my girls that all the time, and it's harder for teenagers, and I get it. If someone told me that many years ago, it would have probably been harder to receive, but I just wish that everyone just knew that. It just doesn't matter. Like, you have to do what makes you happy, what makes you soar.
You are such an amazing, incredible individual. And I always look at from the short period of time that I've known you, like you do all these things. I'm curious to know what drives you.
Okay, this is what drives me. I'm very faith-based. I don't want to get to heaven because I'm going to go to heaven and God say, you know what, Jocelyn, I gave you all these gifts. Did you use them to your fullest potential? So I think about that. I mean, believe me, I don't put myself on a pedestal or anything, but I don't want, because I know that people like look to me, they look at me and they're like, okay, what's she doing? I want to like inspire people. I want to have the energy and the light Not for me, but for others. Like they say, what's a phrase? I had it on my screen, so it's escaping me right now. Like, be the light and inspire others to be that light as well. Something like that. It's like all you can really do is do your best, and hopefully that it influences other people. So that's just how I live my life. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it, because what good is keeping all of your time and talent hidden? You just kind of have to show the world and hopefully inspire someone to do the same. So that's my motivation.
So good. And as we think about what's next for Jocelyn, what are you most excited about that you're working on?
In addition to just working alongside my husband and growing both of our businesses, I think it's helping other people grow. Our office has a lot of like young agents, and I wish I had a senior agent like me to them back then, just to go to for advice or for guidance. And I love it. I didn't think I ever wanted to start a team or have a team, but now that I'm a little bit more mature, maybe it is time for that. Maybe it is time to start a team and like just have people like learn from my experiences. I think that's probably on the horizon, and just to continue like all the things that I love doing anyway. Obviously, continue my community service. Like one of the most recent things that was introduced to me is finding a location in San Diego to erect a Filipino American community center. San Diego has a ton of Filipino Americans because Navy, this is a port for the Navy. So we do have a lot of Filipinos in our community. And gosh, what better way to honor not only my parents, my dad was Navy, my mom was a nurse, the typical Filipino story. What better way to honor parents and people like my parents, as well as give a legacy to my kids, than something in San Diego as a place that Filipino Americans can come together. So that's next on my radar.
Yeah, I love it, love it, love it. And as we wrap up, there's always one question that I ask every single guest on the show is what does Jocelyn do to play bigger in business or in life?
Serve others. Simple as that.
Well, Jocelyn, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. I know we've been talking about it for a while. I appreciate you, I value you, and I am so excited for what's next for you that I want to keep supporting you in playing bigger, my
Oh my
friend.
gosh, I love you, Raquel.
You're like my soul sister,
I,
is what
you know
I've
what?
told.
Seriously, I believe that, and you already know this. I have a girl crush on you, so
It's mutual, my friend.